I still remember the exact morning I almost gave up. The sky was dull, heavy with gray clouds that seemed to press down on everything beneath them. I woke up already tired, even though I had barely slept. My phone buzzed with reminders I didn't want to see, deadlines, messages, expectations. Everything felt like noise I could no longer understand. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the floor. It wasn't just one thing that broke me. It was everything added together. The constant pressure to succeed, the fear of failing, the feeling that no matter how hard I tried, I was always one step behind everyone else. I told myself, maybe I'm just not meant for this. That thought didn't come suddenly. It had been growing quietly inside me for months, like a shadow I kept ignoring. But that morning, it felt louder than anything else. I got up anyway, though I didn't know why. I moved through my routine like a machine shower. Clothes, breakfast, I barely touched. Outside, the world kept moving, as if nothing was wrong. People walked past smiling, talking, living their lives like it was all simple. I envied them. At one point, I stood near the doorway holding my bag, ready to leave, and I hesitated. My hand tightened around the strap. For a second, I thought, what if I just don't go? What if I stop everything right now? That thought scared me more than anything else, because part of me didn't feel like fighting anymore, but another part still hadn't let go. And that was the part that made me step outside anyway. The moment I stepped outside, the air felt different, heavier, like it already knew how I was feeling. The street was busy, but I felt completely disconnected from it, like I was walking through a world that didn't belong to me anymore. Every step toward my destination felt louder in my mind than in reality. I kept thinking about turning back. It would be so easy. Just one small decision, and I could disappear back into my room, back into silence, back into not having to face anything. But I kept walking. At the bus stop, I stood among strangers. No one noticed me, and somehow that made everything worse. I wondered how everyone else managed to look so normal. A man checked his watch. A student laughed at something on their phone. An elderly woman stared calmly at the road. Life continued for them without hesitation. For me, it felt like I was stuck inside a paused moment that no one else could see. When the bus arrived, I almost didn't get on. My feet didn't want to move. It was strange how something so simple could feel so heavy. But eventually, I stepped in and found a seat near the window. I pressed my forehead lightly against the glass. Outside, the world blurred as the bus moved forward. Buildings, trees, people, all passing like memories I wasn't part of. Inside my mind, the same thought kept repeating, I can't do this anymore. And yet, I was still doing it. By the time I reached my stop, my thoughts felt even heavier than before. I stepped off the bus slowly, like my body was moving a few seconds behind my mind. The air outside was warmer, but it didn't help. Nothing felt different, even though everything around me had changed. I walked toward the building I was supposed to be at. Each step felt like a question I didn't know how to answer. Why am I here? What am I even trying to prove? I didn't have clear answers anymore. Just exhaustion. Deep, quiet exhaustion that no sleep could fix. Inside, people were already busy. Voices echoed through hallways. Chairs moved. Footsteps rushed past me. Everyone seemed to have a direction. Everyone seemed certain. I wasn't. I found a quiet corner before I had to fully step into the noise. For a moment, I just stood there, watching everything without really joining it. My hands were slightly shaking, and I didn't know if anyone would notice if I just turned around and left. That idea kept returning, leaving, quitting, disappearing from all of it. It didn't feel dramatic in my mind. It felt peaceful, like resting after carrying something too heavy for too long. But then, another feeling crept in, smaller, quieter. Not hope exactly, more like memory. I remembered why I started, not the big reasons people talk about, but the small ones. The version of me that once believed I could handle this. That version felt far away now. Still, I stayed where I was, caught between walking away and walking forward. Neither choice feeling strong enough to fully win yet. I finally forced myself to move forward, not because I suddenly felt strong, but because standing still was starting to hurt more than moving. I walked into the room where everything was supposed to happen, and immediately felt the weight of expectations settle on my shoulders. People were talking, preparing, acting like today was just another normal day. I tried to act the same. I nodded when I needed to, smiled when it was expected, and took my place quietly. But inside, everything felt fragile, like I was one small push away from breaking completely. The moment things started, I struggled to focus. Words were spoken, instructions were given, tasks were set, but my mind kept drifting. I kept thinking about how easy it would be to just stop trying, to let everything fall apart and finally breathe again. At one point, I made a mistake. A small one, nothing dramatic. But in my mind, it felt huge. Like proof that I didn't belong here. My chest tightened. I could feel panic rising slowly, like water filling a room. I looked around, expecting someone to notice, expecting someone to judge, but no one did. Everyone was too focused on their own responsibilities. That somehow made it worse. I lowered my gaze, trying to steady myself. My hands clenched under the table. I kept thinking, I can't keep doing this. I really can't. And for the first time that day, I believed it fully, not as a passing thought, but as a decision I was dangerously close to making. I don't remember the exact moment everything shifted. There was no loud realization, no sudden burst of motivation. It was quieter than that, almost invisible. I just remember sitting there, hands still trembling slightly, feeling like I had reached the edge of something I couldn't come back from. My mistake replayed in my head again and again, each time making me feel smaller. And then someone spoke to me. Not loudly, not harshly, just a simple question about whether I was okay and needed a moment. It shouldn't have meant much, but it did, because it reminded me that I wasn't as invisible as I felt. I nodded slightly, unable to find the right words. I took a slow breath, then another. The panic didn't disappear, but it softened just enough for me to think again, instead of drowning in it. I looked down at my hands and realized something simple but important. I was still here, still sitting, still trying, even when I thought I had already given up inside. The rest of the day didn't become perfect. Nothing magically fixed itself. I still struggled. I still felt tired. I still questioned myself more than once. But I didn't quit. That was the difference. When everything finally ended, I walked out feeling empty, but not broken. The sky outside was no longer gray, the way it was in the morning. It looked softer, like it had been waiting for me to make it through. That day didn't change my life in a dramatic way, but it changed something inside me. It taught me that sometimes the road you almost quit is the one that quietly shapes who you become when you choose to stay on it just a little longer.